Good morning. Good morning. Everybody see and hear me all right? Cool. All right. I forgot something. Just want to remind everybody of the disclaimer. Educational purposes only. Not considered investment advice. Anyway, that's the disclaimer. Just wanted to remind everybody we've got a little bit of news at the bottom of the hour. So we're going to sit tight for that. We've got U.S. unemployment. A little bit more at 7. And then at 8, we've got some FOMC. So we got a little bit of everything. Then we have some natural gas at 8:30. So we'll sit tight until 6:30 and just see how that plays out. But looking at oil, yesterday after inventory, we had the 43 area give it up. I don't have enough data on here. So we had our 8:30 number, and we gave up our 43 level with conviction. And it sold off 100 ticks. Sold off $1. So now it's kind of grinding its way back. So we'll watch the 43 area. It'll be a little blip below it, but it definitely could keep rolling to the downside. It's definitely got momentum. Yeah, so 50% retracement off of that big move would be at the top of the channel at 43.12 or 43 area. And there's a bunch of volume stacked up here at 43. From what I saw last time I saw, yeah, blocks at 300, 270, all the way from 42.90, all the way up to 42.90, all the way to 43. So just an FYI. Gold had a big run overnight and yesterday, kind of after we left the room. I see a lot of reports that gold is looking negative, but to take them with a grain of salt, just because temporarily it looks like it's wants to push up. We've got our moving averages just crossed. We've got our channel that's up, and this is the medium-sized bar. And then when you look at the 30-minute, we've kind of eked our way out of the downward channel. We've had this, couple day pink. It's our smaller channel and it's up. So we'll see what happens here at these swing highs. But it looks like it wants to push up. But bottom of the hour can change that in a heartbeat. See what's going on. So when we look at our trading charts as far as structure, We don't have much structure yet with oil. We're just kind of in between. So that's something that you tend to just kind of wait till we get structure. Gold, we've pushed up into these big extensions, overnight extensions. And then we just got a new plot. So 1255 would be our cash line where we look to take trades. But remember, we have news in 9 minutes. So we'll sit tight. So just to review, a break, a push, and a pullback of this 55 level usually pushes to the target, which is at 59. If we fail here, then we look for a move down to the mid, which is at 50. And then when we get up into targets here, we also look for fade opportunities up in here too. But momentum is definitely on gold side. So when you're trading a short bar, you just kind of go with the flow and play the structure. So ultimately, it would be, if we're looking for longs, like the charts are telling us, a push down to 46.5, and a failure would be a potential fade or a breakout of 55. Then in Q, just working our overnight structure line at 87. We haven't had any touches of this T1 up here. So if it does push up there after news or something, that would be a potential spot to look for a fade if everything looks right. Because we don't have new numbers until bottom of the, in an hour. So we'll wait and see what's up. Dr. Bob, I said that oil could, looks like it's recovering from its, or retracing its big blowdown from yesterday. So it's retracing. So watch the 43 area because there's a bunch of sellers hanging out up there. And that's the number from yesterday. Yeah, 2 rank O is the same as 4 Tom bar. Same deal. So you can see how this traded right to the tip at 55. Failed. So the way we would trade it is wait for some type of pullback and then look for a short. But we have news in 5 minutes, so we're not going to do that. But just kind of teaching you how we look at things and what we do. Got an iceberg at 54, even. You can see how it taps 54 and then immediately pushes back down. So 3 minutes to the bottom of the hour. Gold has an iceberg at 54 that it's fighting. So the book is showing 21 contracts, but there's been 105 filled. So there's a discrepancy. So that means that there's an iceberg there. Yeah, so if we didn't have news, we'd wait for a pullback, somewhere in here. And then if it holds, we take it short. And then just the opposite. If it pushes up, pulls back into it, and then goes, then that's our long. But this should pull us down into the mid, and if it doesn't, more times than not, you're going to see it test this line and break to the upside. There's actually two icebergs stacked on top of each other, like 3 ticks apart. So there's one at 54, and then there's one at 57. So it's definitely keeping the cap on it. And the volume at the bottom of the hour in news popped right through it, or they took orders off, one of the two. But there was a bunch of contracts that built short there, right at the 54 level. So we're going to give this news some time to either come out. Not sure if it's even out yet. And then let the market react to it. NASDAQ hasn't moved. Everything's kind of in standstill. Okay, so we've got a flat number. So does that mean it's positive for gold, or does that mean, I would think that that would be a positive thing, wouldn't it? But it never trades like I think it's going to trade, so it's just pointless to even worry about it. So this trade here is a continuation trade to the south. I'm going to give this just a couple more minutes. There's been a time or two where I've jumped the gun on news. And a good trade turns bad just because I'm in a little bit too early. This can still push down a little bit and then pull back into our level. But not news. This would be your short 53.5. Sometimes you want a little bit bigger of a pullback, but if it's not gonna, if it's failing, it's gonna fail. NASDAQ isn't really moving at all. So this was kind of a once bitten, twice shy scenario. One of my losing days was jumping into gold a minute, I think it was like right at a minute after news release. And it put on a picture perfect trade, pulled back, took us out, and then continued the direction. So plus our smooth indicator is showing oversold. That's also a good rule not to trade against that baby. So we'd be at target by now, unfortunately. But you miss them, And that's okay. That's part of the, that's just part of it. But you can see that the strategy works. But we just had an extra variable in the equation, which was news. So that makes you feel good. So remember, our big bar has our moving averages that just crossed to show bullish. And we're pulling back. So down in here at 58, 51.8, we have our 50. And then 51.4, we have our 200. So that's down here almost to the mid. And that last push up, we made, you know, a lower high, definitely, compared to the overnight number. So it's one thing to consider too. It's like the perfect doji. You don't see that very often. That's what makes it hard to trade automation with dojis. It's because you have to define a doji. How many ticks wide is the body? Is it 2? Is it 3? What's the definition of a doji? And so that's what you have to define, and so that's what makes it hard. So we've got oil in 20 minutes. Just kind of got a little sign of life here. A little pop. So one thing that I want to show you guys, if you take off double tail, it's these tails that are fun to trade. These bars that reverse off of a push of a certain direction, like this is a push down with a reversal bar. and then an immediate another reversal bar. Those are good trades. Here's another reversal bar, but if it fails, you're going to have a pretty good tail. So a good trade is to take the close of this bar after the tail. And it usually continues to push in the same direction. And sometimes you miss out on that with dojis. That's why I had this chart different, because I was looking at stuff. Because sometimes when we get into a run, it never gives us an opportunity to get in. So like this, if it continues to push down, this would be an opportunity to get in if this bar closes down. And it's going to close at 52.3 down. So that would be a continuation down to the mid, which would get us in there instead of waiting for a doji. So these reversal bars, like this one, these two, potentially this one, if it closes up, is going to be your double-tailed doji. So at 53.2, you're going to get a close through 53.1. We'll get you a new bar here. So there's your doji, your double tail. Okay, there it is. It's a 4-tom bar. You just take the overlay off. Well, it was also at 43 to the dang tick, almost. Three ticks within the 43 number. That 43 number owns crude. I'm not sure why, but it goes back quite a ways, and it's definitely a sweet spot. I have a strategy for automation. I just haven't showed anybody yet because it's going to open a can of worms that I'm not sure I'm ready for. Automation is fun because you can just kind of sit back and turn it on and monitor. Sit back, monitor, and then you have the ability to override it if you want. Like move your stops, take profit. But I like using automation for entries. Can of worms or a box of flies. You're right. Seriously. But automation is fun because of you have set criteria that you know works statistically very, very well for an entry. Then why not just have the computer put you in and then run the show if you're stepping away for a minute. Move your stops, take profit, put you in another entry if it's there. So I like automation, but you have to have very strict criteria, and the computer doesn't have the what if type of variable that we have, or maybe variable, or kinda variable. It is very cut and dry. So you'll miss trades by a couple ticks sometimes that we as traders would put on. No, I don't use Bloodhound. I just have a programmed strategy. Yeah, we can talk about it sometime, but it's not going to be anytime in the near future, just because. First things first, right? So gold kind of playing tricky here. I'm not sure. I'm just real hesitant on it today. So on the big bar, this is the trade that you would take on the small bar with the tail, right? If you're moving averages, you have a close of 54.7 would be your entry long on the big bar. So to be fading that, yes, levels first. So this trade here is one of our trades, but I want it to be up here more. Because usually you get a push down to the mid. Sometimes it's a choppy push. Very rarely is it like a V, a V. And since it didn't do that, it makes me want to think that it wants to get a little bit closer to the line and maybe push out, not because the bigger bars are showing that that's what it wants to do. Some of you guys might already be in the short. And so our moving averages on our big bar are right down into this midpoint, which could and probably will have a little bit of support. So remember, the delta for gold is very positive, right? There's been more buyers today than sellers. And so if you want to fight that, there's going to be a little bit more risk. We've got 8 minutes till crude. You're starting to see a little volume pick up under here, some buyers, but it's nothing major, but they're there. So just to point out this real quick, just wanted to show you yesterday. So we had our strike line at 44 yesterday when 8:30 rolled around. And we usually give it 5 minutes, right? So here's our, just to show you like the tails. So if you get a failure of this level and you get your tail, this would be your entry at 90. They continue, these tails continue. So this wouldn't necessarily be a double tail. And so those are different spots to get into a run. You can see the tails, even on this small bar of 4. So like right now, we just had a tail. So your entry would be 73. And we've also had another pretty good sized tail. But what I've also noticed that tails in the beginning of the runs are the best. And if you have multiple tails in a row, that means there's a little bit of indecision. And so that could reverse on you. Yeah, it's a good entry. Like this, these tails long. There's another one. So if you're looking to scalp a little bit, that would be something to watch, but you need to be in the correct direction. So if you take tails in the direction that you're trading, then they work out nice, especially if you're just looking for a little bit. So there's our reversal in gold. Remember, I wasn't feeling it. Just wasn't right. Not reversal, but our push up. And our failure to get down to this midpoint means it's probably going to push right through here. And our big bar is closed. So now it's, kind of struggling here. But what's it giving us? It's giving us a tail right here. Yeah, the sound should be good. So we've got a level at 55. We've got the big bars showing longs in gold. The news was kind of a fizzle. Just double checking. We've got another little blip. Is it 7? HPI. It's nothing too hot. And we've got crude opening at 7. So remember, crude is trading between the two moving averages, the 50 and the 200, which usually is very choppy. So if this wants to roll over, we've already tested 43 and failed once. So if this wants to roll over and push down, then there we go. So like if you look at a 7-tom bar, it doesn't really show much for, well, the momentum is way off. So compared to this, I mean, you can see this divergence forming right at this level. So I'm going to go short here at 54.3, and then my stop is going to be right above that top of that level. So it's going to be fairly tight stop, just because we've had our we're testing again. And when you look at this bar, you can see all these little. You can see that it looks like it wants to top out again. It really does. Plus, we have a huge divergence. 56.5 is where all the volume's laying as far as sellers. So here are our new plots. We've got a midpoint at 62. So let's let it find some structure to work off of. So the level that it's reacted off of twice, kind of a double top. We've got a divergence, bearish divergence. And we have, like Hans just mentioned, we have a fairly decent size of order sitting up here at 55.5.
Order filled.
So we're short. Our stop is at 55.2. So our target's at 53.3. Move my runner target down to the mid, down to 50, 50.9, 51-ish. We'll worry about that when it gets there. So far, so good. Got a little bit of volume following it down, so that's good. There's a few people chasing it down, so. $53, we've got all of us sitting there. Because I can see it on Bookmap that volume follows it down. So our midpoint is at 61 on crude. I don't know why I call it this, but I call these three. There's a turn bar, and a potential turn bar. I call it the three-man standing, and that's a major indecision as far as I'm concerned, but we're on the right side of it. Not that it's anything significant that you need to do or say, but or react to. Yeah, we've got yesterday's close at 53.1. So you can see that this little reaction here earlier this morning, right around the top of the hour. Yeah, Iron, I couldn't find it, and I have it on a thumb drive somewhere. I'll find it for you today when I'm done, okay? You're welcome, buddy. All right, it's going to come in hot here at our target, hopefully. This next push down should grab us. 5 ticks. You guys have been patient with me this morning. I'm impressed. Waiting for stuff. Yeah. Hans, I think you work at a donut shop. Are you sure you're not Tim Horton? Is that what it's called? Tim Horton. They're all the same levels. They're all calculated. It doesn't matter what time frame. They're fractal, so they're all the same. So you could put it on a 1 minute chart and it would show the same thing on a half hour chart. Yep, you're welcome. It's just different data feed. Yeah, Larry. Ed, it's a data feed thing. Make sure you're on 24/7 as far as your session template in the data. Hans, this is when you need to drop your 1,000 contracts short right now, just to drive us down into target. So I'm giving you the go ahead. Brian, you too, pile it on. Good job, boys. yeah, just keep some in the bag just in case another push down to the midpoint. That was so funny. When I said that, there was a pretty good sized block that went through. Oh, good. Good, Ed. So from our exit, so 53.3 down to 53, there's a little block of buyers. I don't think it's enough to matter, but we'll find out. You're hedging for the for Tim Horton. So we had a hit, no fill.
Target fill.
Okay, there we go. Because it moved my stop. So my break even's at 54.2. So I have to step away from my computer for 2 seconds. Well, not 2 seconds, like 45 seconds. But I'll be right back. All right. So keep following this down. Let me show you 7 Tom bar. 54.2 right now. So that's right where we're at. So you'll want to be moving it down. So every new bar here, you're going to move it down. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go 3 bars back is the 7 Tom bar stop if you want to do that. You know, we're looking for a push down into this midpoint. We've taken out this little swing high or low. Our next one here is at 52.3. 52.3. Yeah, there isn't anything crazy as far as block orders below us. There's a few 50s, but $52.1. So we do have a confluence down here where our runner target is. Just pointing that out. It's just some overnight structure. This T2 line's been worked over pretty good, so I'm not sure how significant it is. So I'll be back. 1 minute. All right. Back. Yeah, this is slow and choppy, isn't it? But this price up here at 55 was rejected. We took advantage of it. But the closer you get to that line, the better off you have, just because you can keep your stop behind some structure to protect it. You know, unlike kind of in the middle here. I like hiding behind structure. Hey Hans, for your information, I had to deal with my dogs, and yes, I wash my hands. I'm gonna be eating donut holes all morning, and I gotta wash my hands. I've been in different rooms throughout my life, and there's been people that have zero class. If I ever lose my little class that I do have, my little edge as far as when it comes to class, please tell me. This guy would burp, and you could hear him pee, and you could hear everything going on in the background. Every time he left the mic, you could blenders, you name it, was going on. So if it ever gets to that point, please tell me that I need to class it up a bit. That's when I become too comfortable, right? You could say that. I've got a little redneck in me. Not enough to matter. You know, we could nominate somebody as like the room DJ, but the last time I tried that, it was like my second time, I think, or third time. It was the first week of the room. I put on, I think it was Pandora. I had Pandora on, and Jazz was recording the session, or it's always recorded, so we can go back and check it out, and then upload it to YouTube, and it came back as copyright infringement. It's because of the music. So that's our dilemma. Yeah, I'm such a pirate. And the sad thing is the 2 minutes that the music was on, half of the 2 minutes was an ad for something, some commercial. Those, yeah, crazy. So Hans needs to drop his rest of his 1,000 contracts, or maybe his next 1,000 lot, to push this baby down. Yeah, equity open will get something going here. Either spike up and take us out, or it should drive it down. Cumulative delta is negative now. At least drive us down to our midpoint. Then we can move on. Go play for the rest of the day. Or go work in my case. Happy birthday, Steve. Levels, 9 a.m. levels. So we're just under our midpoint. So our structure is at 84 and at 11. Crude's still kind of not sure what it wants to do. Didn't even get up to this cash line level to even give us a chance to look at it. So gold's just kind of flatlining. There's a little bit of volume stacking up above it, above the current price. So it should get on any push up here. We'll see though. $52 even is our next block, and it's at 60 contracts, which is about double, triple of normal. So hopefully this drive will take us at least down to this swing low, 52. Catch you later, Doug. No, so these are just extensions, right? Here's our push. So we've got some new levels. This will be good just to educate you on this. We got some new levels. So our new cash line is at 52.6. So we could get a reaction here. If it breaks through, we're going to target down to 51.4, which is good because that's the direction we're going. So the difference between the cash lines, the S's, is just different extensions. So it's extensions. Yeah, our stop's at 54. So those are levels that we look to either fade or take a breakout from and take them to target. Stuff around the midpoint tends to chop. It tends to wrap. When it's not going a certain direction, it usually wraps itself around the midpoint. You can use the fib extension tool to calculate them, but they're not true fibs, which so I wish this would hold here. Hopefully it holds. So NASDAQ. I'm still in this trade here, so I'm not going to do anything with the NASDAQ, but you guys are more than free. So look for a push and a pullback into this 83.75. We're working on a divergence on the 11 Tom bar. Bullish divergence. So on the 11 Tom bar, this momentum's actually lower. So it is a divergence. It's not a divergence here because the momentum is actually lower than these previous push downs. Just an FYI.
Stop filled.
All right, so we're out of gold. So that was kind of a choppy, messy trade. But we did it, and looks like we got stopped to the dang tick. No, we didn't. It pushed above us quite a bit. So remember, with the NASDAQ, we traded below our moving averages and right to the edge, bottom edge of the channel. So did you, any of you guys pick up that trade right here? I didn't, just because of the divergence. So older levels, I only pay attention to them if there hasn't been any touches. Like this midpoint down here would be definite one to pay attention to. That's just showing overnight structure. So we're pushing up to our structure. So 81 quarter was short entry and I missed it. Sorry. Good job, John. You're welcome, bud. So I'm going to leave these levels up. I have to run. It's 7:45 my time, and I need to get cracking. What I'll do is leave these levels up so you can see where they're at. They're the room levels, and so they're levels that we're going to have available to everybody. No, thank you guys. It's always a blast. So I'll see you guys. So today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday. Let's see what's shaking tomorrow. Tomorrow news. Let's see what is shaking. Just a bunch of Canadian news. Then we've got a little bit of manufacturing, some new home sales, the Fed always screwing things up. So that's what we've got. Yeah. Maple syrup. So this level is definitely giving it some trouble. And at 85 all the way up to 87, it's pretty good. Sellers stacked in here. So Chad. All right, you guys. Talk to you later, okay? I'll see you bright and early tomorrow. Catch you later. Thanks again for the fun day. Bye. Just to point out, we're up to 41.34 in the funded trader prep. I think our high watermark is 44. So we're crawling back. We've had, I don't know, not going to jinx anything, but 6, 7, 8 days in a row. Winners. So that's good, right? Got to be patient. But anyway, thanks again. See you Friday morning tomorrow. All right. Bye. Hey, so I'm back again. So any of you guys that are in this NASDAQ short, if you are, I'm going to leave these levels up so you can see the target. So short things up once it gets down to 70 quarter, and then, or if it does, and then 57-ish below. Catch you later, guys.